how many of you, show of hands, will leave tonight planning to support the vice president? 2 have made a final decision. Now, you came in leaning that way?
Pretty much right in the middle.
Okay. Came in
Leaning.
leaning, and now you're decided.
Yes.
Okay. Now, 3 of you have not, so let me start with you first, Joe. Why?
I think there are still, first off, I certainly respect the vice president and the work that she is doing in her office. I think that there are still some, at least for me, some personal policy differences. I don't think that, I still can't get behind her policies on abortion. That's just something that I can't get behind, because that's, the right to life is so fundamental in this country that it becomes, without that right being respected, it's incredibly difficult to talk about anything else. So I have a policy difference, a number of policy differences with her. That's the biggest one that comes to mind. But at the same time, I'm still not sold on the former president either, just because of his personality, his actions on January 6th, just the way that sometimes he treats people. That gets to be a little bit difficult for me.
So 2 quick follow-ups here. Number 1, so you're not leaving here planning to vote for Trump. You're leaving here still not knowing what to do.
I came in here leaning in the direction of the former president. I have not made a final decision.
Okay. The vice president approached you as she was walking out, and we could hear a little bit of it from afar, but you were having a conversation about your disagreement on abortion.
Yes.
Obviously, you still disagree with her. What did it mean to you that she took the time to talk to you? Did it mean anything at all?
It meant quite a bit, actually. I will respect that. Anybody who's willing to hear ideas that are in opposition to hers, and that's, or to anybody's really for that matter, that's something that is a personality trait that I really appreciate. And that is certainly something that, like, I try to have in myself. I do try to listen to as many points of view as possible in my day-to-day life to try to get that. So I appreciate that element for her. It's just sometimes this can be so very fundamental. That particular issue can be so very fundamental to how we talk about anything else, the right to life, not just abortion, but the respect of life from the beginning to the end is so very fundamental to how we operate as a country.
Well, we have 12 days to keep in touch with you as we go forward. We'll come back to the conversation. I just want to go back to the back row a little bit. So Pam and Lauren, Pam on my left, Lauren on my right. So you're not leaving here planning to vote for her. Do you leave here any clearer in either direction?
You know, actually, I think if I had to pick right now, I would pick her.
If you had to pick right now,
I would.
But
yes.
Is that you changed your mind since I asked the question a minute ago, or that's where you're more strongly leaning there? Is there what's missing? If there's a missing link to get you to absolutely, what is it?
That's a tough question. I guess a lot of the foreign policy is really my biggest concern, but overall, I think she is a better candidate.
Okay. And you're a registered Republican.
I'm an independent.
You're an independent now.
Yes.
Who'd you vote for in 2020?
I voted for Trump.
You voted for Trump.
Yes.
So if you vote for Harris, in the math, that's a big deal, especially where we live here in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that as well. You also had a conversation with the vice president after. She immediately, you're the first one she sought out.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Tell me about it. What you can. I don't want to violate your privacy or her privacy,
That's okay.
but to the point you can.
And I really felt that, and I really, I came out of this feeling, just kind of a feeling of adoration of her personally. I think personally she is a good person, and there was a nice connection, especially as a woman. There are a lot of things that I connect with her as a woman. However, I am very big on details. I'm big on numbers. I am a widow with 100% responsibility for my family, for my kids, for their tuitions, for my bills. And so I do my own taxes. I'm very much on top of every dollar. And so that is where, and I'm not really getting it from either candidate, to be honest. So that's where I just want to see what lines up. And I don't know if it's with this kind of environment that you can't commit to something. but I really do have to vote for my family. And another thing that is very much a turnoff, and this is with both candidates, stop trashing each other. We don't care. Stop trashing Trump. Trump, stop trashing the vice president. We don't care. The voters don't care. We don't even know the people they're talking about, that this person said this and that. How does that impact the voters? That's who you're talking to. That's who you're serving. This feels like high school gossip. We don't care. We don't want to hear it.
You're all nodding about that.
Yeah, we
As
don't.
someone who's covered a lot of campaigns, I'm not here to take sides.
Trump's
but
about.
You know what Trump's about. Okay, that's the
Yeah,
point I was trying to
stop
get at.
talking about
in
him.
the sense that if you are her,
Yeah. I would say stop
but if
talking
you look at
about
the numbers, Donald Trump is running stronger now than he was running in either 2016 or 2020. So if you're her, you're thinking, I need to try to disqualify him sometime.
Okay.
But you're all telling me that you would prefer she do that by making a more affirmative case.
Yes.
This is why you should pick me over him.
Not her.
I would say exactly that for, I think, from prior to even entering the race as the presidential candidate. And then once she ultimately was nominated, for a very long time, she didn't stoop to his level. And as of late, last couple of weeks, I've really started to see, like you said, this schoolyard bullying. And I think that's beneath her. She doesn't need to do that. She can run on her policy. She can run on her position. You don't need to stoop to his level. And I really think that's what it is. And, you know, I respect her more for that if she would just stay out of that arena.
We're in this very unprecedented place. She just became the candidate in July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Normally, you run in a primary, or you're the president, as Joe Biden was, you're the incumbent, you're not really challenged. You go. To that degree, she clearly feels the need to introduce herself more. So you understand who she is, not just what her positions are, but who she is and what makes she tick, what makes her tick. Let me start here. Did you hear anything tonight? Will you leave saying, I understand her better. I know her better. Not taxes and spending, not abortion rights, not immigration, but who she is. If the moment of crisis comes, I trust her or don't trust her because of what?
One of the things that stood out to me was when, I believe it was you that asked the weakness question. You know, what is your biggest weakness? And she brought up that she has people around her that she can trust, that she can get the answer from. In my line of work in IT, I don't expect everybody to know the answer. I expect them to know how to get the answer. And her specifically, that resonated with me, because I don't need a president that knows everything or thinks they know everything, because that's not what America needs. They need to put the right people in the right place to lead the country efficiently. One person can't lead this country. They need a team, and that's what resonated with me.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, that was the biggest that's the reason why I asked that question. I also appreciated the fact that she had a certain degree of introspection as she was answering that question, which was certainly another factor in this. We, again, as I mentioned in the setup to the question, we are not perfect as human beings. And in the presidency, you need to acknowledge that as well, because you have so much around you that can sometimes lead you to think that you're larger than life. And at a certain point, we have to acknowledge that there is something bigger than us, whatever that something is to an individual. We have to acknowledge that there is something bigger than us that helps us, that helps us be humble in our daily life, whether it's president or.
To that point, let me flip it. You have to sometimes say there are things that are bigger than me, bigger than what I believe. You have a very important personal position on an issue that is profoundly important to you, abortion rights.
Yes.
And it's deeply personal. I assume a position also born of faith. So she's asking you, essentially, my words, not hers, but I get you, I respect you. Can I ask you to put that aside because of these other issues, whether it's the economy, whether it's immigration, whether it's Trump's behavior? That's what she's asking you to do on a principled issue on which you fundamentally disagree. Can she get you there? What would it take?
I think that it would take, honestly, it would take a profound respect for the fact that there is a dichotomy here. And whatever approach is taken on that particular issue, if we can respect the fact that the Declaration of Independence, the first document of this country, indicated that our first right that is given to us by our Creator is a right to life, that matters. And if we can at least approach it with that as our foundation, then we can have maybe a conversation in that regard. The other issues that you laid out, there is a lot of agreement on both sides. It comes down to finer points of execution at the end of the day. We heard Anderson press the vice president regarding the border wall and the fact that there's still $650 million allocated to that particular project, that project that was such a standard of the first time that the former president ran. The fact that she wouldn't necessarily answer that question directly, and the fact that she agreed that we need a secure border, there is agreement on both sides. It's just a matter of the execution that's a part of it.